Alright, what is up guys, it is Storm back here with another video, and in this one I am bringing you part 35 to Mightless, a My Hero Academia story by the Mysterious Banana. Now, it's been a good while since the last part, and I just got kinda tired of doing, the story videos. And with the recent videos I've been making, that being the shorts, they've definitely been popping off, and I've just had a lot of fun making them, but I'm going to try and get back into the story videos, so like the New Dawn and Mightless, I'm going to try and do every now and then. Not sure how often it's going to be, but I'm going to try and make it not every 4 months for a part. But if you guys want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also go down in the description and check out all my other stuff like my TikTok, Instagram, and all that other stuff and whatnot. But anyways, with all that out of the way, why don't we just dive right on in. The nearby areas of Kamino had been blocked off by police forces. As the crowds of people gathered around the screens cheering for All Might to win, a womanly figure, tears running down her eyes, dashed through the crowd before running face first into a wall of police. "Sorry ma'am, this area has been restricted. Please, let me through, my son is in there. I have to save him, it's my duty as a mother," said the woman with a worried tone. "No can do. The only people allowed past this point are the police and pro heroes," replied the policeman. Suddenly the woman pulled a license out of her purse. "What about former pro heroes?" she asked. Looking at the license, the policeman's eyes widened. "You're Inko Midoriya, as in Storm. Inko Midoriya, the psychic hero?" asked the policeman. "Please, if I can't go and fulfill my duty as a mother, let me fulfill my duty as a hero," she asked. The police thought about it for a moment before opening the barrier while no one was looking. "Stay out of trouble, please," he said. "Now go." As the mother ran past the police barrier and towards the battlefield, she reached into her purse, taking out a vial of dark green liquid. "I'll save you, Izuku, no matter what," she said, "even if it kills me." Two figures moved faster than the naked eye across the desolate wastelands that used to be the bustling shopping district of Yokohama City, clashing with each other every few seconds. As the news helicopters recorded the battle from above, forced to switch to the highest shutter cameras so that the viewers across all of Japan could keep up with the action. Meanwhile, massive glaciers erupted from the ground as a massive black humanoid beast, similar to the ones during the Hosu attack, chased a young boy who was jumping backwards at impressive speeds, trying to avoid the monster. "You can't run forever, Todoroki," Mightless yelled. Smashing through the glaciers like they were cardboard, the young student kept his distance while erecting multiple layers of ice walls, blocking the monster's path, each one thicker than the last. He felt frostbite covering his body, but knew that regulating body heat would be suicide in the heat of battle. He needed to distract Midoriya long enough to do so, but due to his now feral fighting style, finding such an opening would be impossible. Not even 3 seconds in, and Mightless had already dug through Todoroki's ice barrier, his claws ready to gut him alive. Just then, All Might ran in, nailing Mightless across the face, sending him flying back several meters. "Are you okay, Shoto?" asked All Might. "I'm fine," Todoroki smiled, heating up his body with his fire quirk. "Good, now get up. We need to keep your guard up." Before All Might could finish, All For One flew in, grabbing All Might by the face and dragging him across the entire battlefield, throwing him into a collapsed building. Seeing this, Todoroki got up, firing a blast of flames at All For One. The villain boss, feeling the upcoming attack, turned around and deflected the attack with the wave, sending towards Mightless. The beast saw the upcoming attack and smiled, triggering one of his new quirks, Heat Containment. The beast opened its maw, swallowing the fire whole, and then charged at the student. Just then, All Might jumped out of the building, trying to get Mightless away from his student. The head of the monster, however, did a full 180 turn, releasing the fire he ate directly onto All Might, before the rest of his body spun around to match his head, spin kicking him in the process, sending him flying back and coughing out a bit of blood. "Damn, with those 2 no-moves in his body, he hits even harder than that no-move from the USJ incident," All Might said to himself, getting up, only to get stomped back down by All For One. Luckily, All Might's lightning-quick reflexes allowed him to block the stomp as he pushed All For One back. Meanwhile, energy surged in Todoroki's body as he covered his right side in ice and charged at Mightless. "One for all, full cowling, 25% Alabama smash." A huge air blast followed the strike, causing Mightless to skid back several meters, despite blocking the hit. "So, I don't have shock absorption. No matter. I'll just have to rip his guts out and strangle him with his entrails," he thought, until his thoughts were suddenly clouded by murder and savage bloodlust. "Damn, I'm losing my sanity faster than expected. I have to win quickly." Suddenly, Mightless went on all fours, sprouting 2 more limbs like a bug. "And murder him dead." Suddenly, the beast lunged at Todoroki, his 2 newly grown limbs melding together to form a hammer arm and swinging at Todoroki. The boy dodged, but the impact caused the ground to fragment as pieces of land jutted upwards, knocking the student off balance. Like a monkey, Mightless leapt from one wall to another, catching up to him, grabbing him by the throat and slamming him into the ground before pummeling him with his other arms. Detroit Smash! All for One was sent flying back with a powerful punch. In the meantime, getting sent flying into Izuku, knocking both of them out of the way. Getting up, Todoroki tore off his ripped apart outfit, revealing a bruised and bleeding but muscular figure, the proof of his hard training. "Are you alright?" asked All Might. "I was just about to ask you the same thing," replied Todoroki. "Are you kidding me? I've never felt better." The student smiled, despite his wounds. On the other side, All for One turned to Izuku. "Are you doing alright?" asked the villain's boss. Izuku, on the other hand, was breathing heavily. Izuku. Kill. Kill, 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 kill. Mightless started to mutter, before turning into feral roars, similar to that of a Nomu. Before All for One could do or reply anything, much less think, the feral beast charged at the two with such speed, both heroes were caught off guard. He grabbed both Todoroki and All Might by the face, and dragged them across the entire battlefield, slamming them through fallen buildings, rubble, leftover icebergs from Todoroki's quirk. Another pair of claws sprouted from both sides of Izuku's body, as he inserted them into the sides of the two heroes, causing them to cough out blood. Power surged in the right arm of both heroes as they pulled them back while being smashed through several buildings. One for all, full cowling, 50%. One for all, 100%. As they approached a fallen over commercial building, they punched Mightless in the gut at the same time. Detroit Smash! Letting go of the two, Mightless was sent flying into said building, coughing out a stream of blood. The two heroes, on the other hand, fell short, sliding against the floor as they slowed down, stopping directly in front of the hole in the building made by Mightless when he got punched. Suddenly, building started to move as Mightless, his eyes bloodshot red and blood gushing out of his mouth, stood below it, lifting the entire thing, and with a ferocious roar, threw the chunk of building at the two. Seeing that his student was at his limit, All Might winded up his punch and pulverized the building as Todoroki watched in awe. Suddenly, he saw a figure closing in. "All Might, watch out!" Todoroki cried out. Before All Might could react, however, All for One stood in front of him. Looking down, All Might stood there, shocked, and Todoroki stood in horror as he saw his teacher impaled by All for One. Pulling his arm out of All Might's chest, All for One smiled, watching the #1 pro hero deflate like a balloon before falling limp to the ground in a pool of blood. Looking up at Todoroki, the villain boss walked up to him as the student trembled in fear. "So, Mightless, how about you finish him off?" asked All for One, but to no response. Mightless, turning back, he took a look at his student. For whatever reason, he wouldn't move. His body was still shaking, trembling, trying to move, but wouldn't. "Mightless, what's going on?" asked All for One. "My body, it won't move," Izuku said. "What are you talking about?" Before All for One could finish, he stopped dead in his tracks, unable to even lift a finger. "What's going on?" All for One said. "Wait, I've felt this before. This could only be telekinesis, which means..." "All for One!" A female voice was heard. Activating a sensory quirk, the villain's boss' suspicions were confirmed, and he smiled. "Hello, Inko Midoriya." Suddenly, a womanly figure ran in, her two hands out and glowing with psychic energy. "Mom?" Izuku uttered as his black eyes started to revert to their original color. "Izuku, my baby, what have they done to you?" she cried out, running up to her son, rubbing his ice-cold cheeks. "I'm sorry I had to restrain you, I'm sorry." Tears rolled down Izuku's eyes. "Mom," he uttered as his eyes fully reverted back to innocent green. "Please, stop crying. I'm sorry." Hearing this, she hugged him, releasing him from her psychic bindings. Izuku, on the other hand, looked at himself and, for once in his life, felt disgusted at what he was seeing. Slowly, his darkened flesh melted off as his body was slowly reverting to its normal form. Impressive, the overflow of raw, intense emotion, combined with All for One, allowed his body to reject its mutation, All for One said to himself, still unable to move a finger. Then something hit him. "Please, Izuku, let us forget about all of this and go home, okay, champ?" asked Inko. "Mom," Izuku smiled. "You always knew how to win me over." Suddenly, Todoroki's eyes widened. All Might's eyes widened. The whole world stood still, silence, as All for One smiled. "Hence, you are my biggest burden," Izuku finished, as his right hand transformed, impaling his mother. "Thus, I must rid myself of you." Standing there, Todoroki watched as his friend, the Izuku he knew, kill his own mother in front of his eyes. Memories of his own bedridden mother clouded his mind as he was speechless at the thought of someone who could have done that to their own mother existed. Rage overtook him as he charged in at full force towards his former classmate. "Mightless!" Todoroki yelled, nailing him in the gut as he was sent flying several meters in the air. All for One tried to intervene, but suddenly a blast of flames interrupted him. "Looks like we were late to the party," said a familiar voice. "So, All Might, how's it going?" Could have been better, Enji," All Might uttered weakly. "You pro-heroes escaped?" All for One asked. "How?" "We had help from the outside," replied Edshot. Suddenly, throwing knives came flying in, one of which cut All for One in the wrist. "Stain?" asked All for One. "Since when are you working with the heroes?" "I never was. I'm just working to stop you. Luckily, I was informed by a certain someone about the League and its general information, who just so happened to be the one that I helped break out of prison," replied the hero killer. Hearing this, the villain boss frowned. "Tomura Shigaraki, you planned your own capture?" he asked, seeing him emerge from that crowd of heroes. "Izuku over there has finally opened my eyes. I knew I needed to grow, so I sat down and planned everything out. From contacting Stain to break me out of prison once I turned myself in, to stealing a blood sample from the force field Nomu so that Stain could shut it down, allowing the heroes to escape," replied Shigaraki. Hearing this, All for One gritted his teeth. "Izuku, you have to retreat. I'll hold them off." But turning around, he saw Izuku getting kicked around like a beach ball. As the villain fell once again, he got up, as his hand morphed into a drill, lunging at Todoroki. The student ducked under the drill, nailing Izuku in the gut with 3% punches, sending him flying back while coughing out blood. He then froze Izuku's feet in place before drop-kicking him with 15% of his power. Izuku fell to the ground before spinning around and trying to sweep Todoroki's leg. The student dodged, however, and hit Izuku square in the head with an axe kick. I can't believe you. Your mother cared for you. How can you just kill her?" the student yelled, grabbing Izuku by the throat. "I prepared for this scenario since the beginning. It's a necessary sacrifice," yelled Izuku. Hearing this, Todoroki headbutted Izuku, making him fall back. "There is no necessary sacrifices, especially not your own mother," Todoroki yelled back, charging up his fist. "She cared so much for you. The League cared more," Izuku replied, charging up his own punch as his fist grew gigantic. As the two clashed, it released an air blast, sending Izuku flying back but breaking Todoroki's arm. He didn't care though, as he stomped the floor, shooting out an iceberg from below, hitting Izuku towards him as he ran up to him, trying to hit him with his other arm. "They're villains, we're heroes. How can you have turned to their side? Tell us, we're here for you," Todoroki asked as he nailed Izuku in the face, smashing him into the ground. Izuku, however, grabbed Todoroki by the wrist, triggered by what he said. "You're here for me? The heroes are here for me?" he said, his voice racked with rage and grief. "Where were you when Katsuki nearly beat me to death on several occasions?" he yelled out, grabbing Todoroki by his wrist and swinging him back and forth into the ground, creating several craters. He then threw him into the air as he spread wings and flew up to him. "Where were you when I was picked on at the park?" he yelled, kicking him around like a rag doll, each hit breaking another bone. "Where were you when I was just told to jump off the roof and hopefully be reborn with a quirk?" he yelled, both his fists growing huge and smashing Todoroki to the ground as the student coughed out blood. Izuku then landed near him, picking him up by the neck himself. "My entire life was torture. No one answered my prayers. Then I met with All Might. He too rejected me," Izuku yelled before knocking Todoroki out with a headbutt. All Might, hearing this, felt as though 1,000 needles were stabbing his heart, feeling guilty for his sins. "But you know who did answer my prayers? Finally? Who picked me up from the mud and cared for me? Do you know who was there for me?" asked Izuku, as a portal appeared behind him as members of the League came running out. Standing behind Izuku, these people you call villains were the ones who saved me. These are the people who answered my cries for help. Dropping Todoroki's beaten up body, he then turned to All Might. "You always smiled triumphantly, saying, 'I am here.' So where were you then? Because the only people I want to be here now are these guys," Izuku said, pointing at his League. "My real family." Hearing this, everyone from the League let out a flattered smile. "Hey, don't be like that, you helped us out too," said Sachi, "especially me." "Yeah, recruiting you to the League was the best choice we ever made," said Toga. "We're so proud of you, young master." You have finally grown into a fine villain, Kurogiri added. Also, damn, I can finally have someone to laugh at my pop culture references. Man, this guy is awesome. You guys missed out, heroes, Spinner laughed, making a face at the pro heroes. He's cool, I guess, Dobby muttered, despite also being flattered by his compliments. Yeah, I like him too. I don't like him, Twice said, using his goofy tone as usual. In the distance, All For One was holding up both Stain, Shigaraki, and the rest of the pro heroes, rendering him unable to reach the portal. It seems this is where you and your master must say goodbye, said Kurogiri. I know, Izuku said, turning to his boss. Hey sensei, All For One, hearing a student called around, turned. What is it, Izuku? I'll be leaving now. The league must survive, so I'll be going, Izuku explained. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hearing this, All For One tried predicting what he was about to say in reply. No, Izuku, if you're asking me to escape with you, I won't make it. Go on, without me, All For One was about to say until Izuku said, Thank you. Suddenly, Izuku, along with the entire league, made one final bow. Seeing this, All For One felt something warm within his chest. If he had eyes right now, he'd be bawling them out. Touched by this final goodbye, All For One yelled back, Good luck, new leader of the League of Villains. Even if I don't make it, I'll be with you in spirit always. All For One cried back, his voice cracking from the amount of crying he would be doing if he could. Goodbye, Sensei, Izuku said. As the pro heroes All For One knocked over got back up, All For One turned away from them and towards Izuku, giving him one final salute before the portal finally closed, with everyone leaving. Izuku, I'm glad I met you, cared for you, and trained you. Those are the best days I had in my life. Now go, the fate of the league rests in your hands, my friend, thought All For One as the hero slowly overwhelmed him. Nonetheless, he grabbed Edgeshot in midair, slamming him into Kamui Wood. He was then hit from behind with Endeavor's flames, but he powered through, punching him in the guts. Suddenly, Gran Torino flew in, hitting him multiple times. It seems this is my final stand, All For One thought as he grabbed Gran Torino and threw him under the ground. Just then, Kamui Wood came in and tied him up with his wood while Midnight tried putting him to sleep. But All For One broke free and shot a hole through Midnight's stomach, downing her. He suddenly felt the gravitational pull him towards something. It was 13. His arm becoming crystal, he punched right through 13's attack, knocking her back. Just then, another blast of flames doused him, followed by another, and another. Meanwhile, Tiger flew in to give a few punches, followed by Gran Torino. As the villain boss was backed up into a corner, a huge burst of energy blasted everyone away. I'll pour every last drop of my energy into this attack, All For One yelled. Suddenly, he turned towards the downed All Might. Cause if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me, All Might. One for all, full cowling, 100% Alaska smash! Todoroki, having woken up, saw the upcoming attack, and ran to block it with all of his might, as it was his duty as a hero. All Might, run! Todoroki yelled, as his attack was only barely stopping All For One's massive fist. Seeing this, All Might gritted his teeth. No, he said, I won't lose 2 students today. Suddenly, reverting to his muscular form, he joined in with Todoroki. Detroit smash! As another fist was added to the attack, All For One was slowly getting pushed back. You think 2 half-assed punches will stop me? All For One laughed. You're wrong. Suddenly, the arm grew, pushing the 2 even further. As Todoroki reached his limit, he slowly started to lose conscious, leaving only All Might to defend against the attack, despite the pro heroes pelting him with attacks to try and stop him. My ember is going out, the last vestige of One For All, thought All Might. Suddenly, memories of his past flashed before his eyes. When you're at your limit, just remember, I'm more than just a symbol, All Might added. Just as my master was before me, I got to raise him right. You've done well, young Todoroki, All Might smiled. Now let me take the wheel. Goodbye, All For One. United States, goodbye. One For All. Of smash! A massive surge of power caused the villain boss to get overpowered, as All Might's fist slipped past his attack and went straight for his face, smashing him into the ground and creating a massive shockwave parting the clouds. As the crowd stood shook and the dust cleared, they were left with one last image, a bony, deflated man carrying an unconscious teenager standing in the middle of a wasteland, with the villain down on the ground. Just then, he reverted to his muscle form and raised his right arm in the air triumphantly. The crowd cheered. All Might had won, and the day was saved. The nightmare in Kamino is no more than a memory now. This is where stands the symbol of peace, the spot marked as his hero career's resting place, where he committed his final heroic acts. but somewhere in a hideout in a non-specified location, Izuku, still resting on a hospital-like bed, resting and recovering, looked up at the ceiling. While he didn't show it, killing his own mother tore him apart. In the end, his master was gone, and so was his mother. He felt the warm droplet run down his face. Tears. "I'm sorry," Izuku muttered. Suddenly, the door opened. It was Sachi. "Hey boss, I know this isn't the right time, but are you doing okay?" asked Sachi. "Well, I just killed my own mother, so you ask me," Izuku said, trying to hide his sadness. Suddenly, Sachi went in to hug him. "You don't have to hide it, Izuku bro. I too cried when my dad died." "It's fine, just let it out," Sachi said. "You don't have to be scared. We're here for you." Izuku, hearing this, finally was able to drop his mask of stoicness, as he let his tears pour out of his eyes like a waterfall, as Sachi held him close, like a big brother would. As the crying eventually stopped after 20 minutes, Sachi let out a reassuring smile. "You know, sometimes I really wish I had a little brother like you. Don't you already? You said you needed to take care of him back when I saved you," Izuku asked, his throat sore from all the crying. "No, it was a ruse to try and get on the hero's good side. It didn't really work out," Sachi said, getting up. "By the way, if you feel like it, get dressed. We have a surprise for you." After lying in bed for a few more minutes, he knew he needed to get his mind off sadness. Getting up and heading to the main bar, to his surprise, it was empty, except for a note on the counter. "Go down to the cellar," it read. Heading downstairs, there was darkness. Using one of his glow quirks he got from his Nomu, Izuku being normal now but can still transform into the body whenever he wants. All there were empty shelves and barrels. Suddenly he heard loud stomping coming from upstairs. Running up, he jumped as he was met with a flash of light. Surprise! The entire league was there, smiling reassuringly. "Guys, what are you doing here?" asked Izuku. "We decided that now since you're our boss, we could celebrate," said Sachi. "We know this is an awkward time, but we couldn't bear seeing you so sad," added Toga. "So we decided to throw a party to celebrate your initiation as our new official boss," Spinner finished. "We made you a cake and everything." Walking up to the cake, Izuku smiled. It was chocolate with vanilla frosting, and a big "To our new boss" written in jelly, along with figurines of the league decorating the top. "So, are you gonna cut it?" asked Toga. "Of course," Izuku smiled, cutting off the piece that had his figurine on it. He then poured himself a cup of martini and raised it in the air. "To new beginnings. And to a new league," replied the rest of them. The battle may have been lost for the villains, but the war was far from over. The sound of partying filled the room with festivity. Izuku was right. The league was indeed his true family.